and welcome to the First Unitarian Church on Celebration Sunday. If you are visiting with us today for the very first time, you might be amazed at how similar this service will feel to every other church in town. Because Celebration Sunday is when we explore every conceivable avenue of guilt to make you pledge more money to the church. I have this image in my head of someone who just had it with churches, been away from churches for 10 years, and decides, well, let me see what those Unitarians are up to, and puts on his coat and comes out in the snow just to see what it's like in the church. You picked the wrong Sunday to come. But stay with us anyway. Stay with us and celebrate. We celebrate the wondrous nature of this community, where we bring the gifts of love and service to the altar of humanity. We celebrate our children and elders. We celebrate our relentless work to bringing justice to this suffering world and to healing those who feel broken. We celebrate with music and poetry, and today, during the coffee hour, we're even going to celebrate with mimosas. And yeah, we want to have everybody just relax into their generosity. That's kind of the... Now, the regulars here probably already have a fixed number in their mind. In fact, when they put on their shoes this morning, they came to church thinking, I know exactly how much I'm going to give for the new church budget. But I want to invite you to take a little bit of a different approach. Just remove that number from your mind and just be open. Be open to the music, be open to and receptive to the different messages that you'll hear, and then you can decide how much you ought to pledge to this church as you're sipping your champagne. Now, in addition to Reverend Monica Dobbins and me, we also have the honor of hearing Aidan Hubert, a new official member of this church who is part of our young adult group. And we'll also hear from Allison Christiansen, also a new member who serves as president of our chancel choir. So today, let your spirits rise as we celebrate this church, 128 years old, but as young and fresh and vibrant and relevant to our needs and aspirations as we could ever possibly hope for. Symbol of light and of knowledge, symbol of warmth and freedom. We light this chalice as a symbol of our faith. Here we gather to celebrate hope and the infinite possibilities of love. May we open our service, turning our hymn books, please, to number 347.
Sacrifice to kindle I remember 1 year ago on Celebration Sunday, it was snowing just like this. Do you remember? Yeah. It was snowing maybe just a little harder. I remember driving white-knuckled through 8 inches of unplowed snow to get to the train station to ride up here for worship. I've learned since that I don't need to worry so much because this snow in Utah is a lot different than the snow back home in the South. And yet, I reckon that snow everywhere has this in common. It blankets the world with beauty, with purity, and with possibility. It brings us into a mood of quiet and contemplation. And so, let us be grateful this morning for the falling snow, encouraging us not to rush ahead to spring just yet, but to appreciate the life that we have now, just as it is. With a heart full of gratitude for the blessings that we've been given, we look inward to this house of memory and hope, this place that has provided shelter for so many of us, shelter from things much more difficult than a little snow. Many of us have left faith traditions that were cold to us, that froze us out because of who we are, who we love, or what we believe. Some of us never had a faith home and discovered our lives were missing something we couldn't really name until we found this place. And some of us have always been here, through good times and bad. We've seen loved ones come and go, yet here we remain. What we all have in common is the love we build together here, year after year. I love these words from the Reverend Dr. Patrick O'Neill. What we love, we empower. We can't claim to love justice just as long as we are willing to tolerate oppression or racism. We can't claim to love peace unless somehow, in some way, we are actually seeking to make peace a reality in the world, in our personal lives, in our communities, in our homes. We work for what we love. We invest in what we love. We try to become worthy of what we love and the people we love. We give of our time, our energies, our attention, and our resources so that our love may thrive. You and I know that this is true of any relationship of love, whether we are talking about loving our children or our partner or our parents, about loving our coworkers or our neighbors, about loving our church. So I invite you to reflect on this love for a few minutes together. What does this church mean to you? What has it come to mean over time? What is the power of this place for you? What is the power of these people for you? What have you learned here? What surprised you? And what keeps you here? Let's spend a moment in silence together, reflecting on how much this church means for all of us. by what we do here, by what we contribute, each in our own way here, by the people we become here, by the ideals and the visions that we embrace and follow, by the families that we help to shape here in this church, we increase the store of love and justice in the world. May it ever be so. Amen.
Cool, 2 for 2, made it up. Really steep. This church does not make itself necessary to its members. There is no hell that our souls need to be saved from. Nobody will even bat an eye if you don't show up every week. Tom or Monica isn't going to give you a stern talking to. But I would argue that this place is necessary to many of us. I grew up in this church. I don't remember much of church before this church. I went to our religious education program, and in general, I thought this is what church was to everyone. It wasn't until later in my life that I realized that in this city and state especially, our religion is vastly in the minority. Eventually, my parents got a divorce and stopped coming. And being 14 at the time, I stopped as well. Last September, however, my mother asked me if I wanted to come back with her, and I said yes. I said yes because not only was this the place that taught me that I was wonderful just as I was, but also made me strive to be better than I am, and that I already had the capacity to be better within me. This place is not about who you are, but what you do. We cry out 1,000 reasons why we do what we do. Why we house a sanctuary family, why we fight to keep our beautiful planet from being destroyed by climate change, why we continue to fight for our LGBTQ siblings. But those 1,000 reasons can be distilled into the kernel of what matters. We do these things because we are human. Each of us carries a voice in our hearts that knows these things are wrong. And this place matters because it reminds us to reject our fear and prejudice and listen to that voice. We remind each other. Now, speaking as a young adult, we inherited a world full of suffering, injustice, intolerance, and hatred. Many of us feel cheated. We did not choose to inherit all this awfulness. Many of us feel broken. But I can tell you, no one is born broken. They are born into a broken world. And while we may not have chosen this world, it is now ours to protect. We must summon the future, for there is no other to do it for us. The future our generation envisions is the future that will come to pass. May it be a future of compassion, love, peace, and kindness. May we strive to make every tomorrow better than yesterday. To that end, I hope this place can give you what it gave me. I hope you can reject cynicism and nihilism. I hope you can see the beauty and sanctity in all things. I hope you listen to that voice in your heart. I have faith that we can rise and make the world a better place for our children and their children. For if we do not, who will? I have made my pledge of support for this church, and I hope you do too. This is the place that will provide hope and influence for change for the generation to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Aiden. That was awesome. So I'm challenging myself, too, this morning by stepping down out of the God box to come down here. So I've only, most of you know that I'm a fairly new minister. I've only been preaching 5 or 6 years, and I've learned that I do pretty well when I prepare my remarks and read them from the pulpit. I don't do so well when I speak extemporaneously because I really don't ever know what's going to come out of my mouth. It could be anything. And that's fun at parties, but it's not really that fun during worship. So I try to keep a lock on that. But I do have my cue card so that if I get too far off track, I can just look down here and, oh, yeah, that's what I meant to be saying right now instead of whatever this is. So it's a challenge for me to speak to you the way that I'm speaking to you right now. But there's one thing that I believe, which is that good ministry is all about taking risks and challenging yourself. I owe it to myself, I owe it to you, and I owe it to God to challenge myself all the time in the ministry that I do here and in the world. And I believe that that is the challenge before you as well, as members of this congregation, that you're always challenging yourself because you owe it to each other, right? So I've seen that this is true in the way that we live our lives together. I've seen you challenging yourself to do new things. We took on a big challenge this year by accepting a sanctuary family. We took on a big challenge by
introducing a new choir, and we rose to the challenge by filling up the choirs so big that they will hardly fit into the sanctuary. It's a wonderful problem to have, and we're so grateful to all of you. These are the challenges that we do together as a group, but you challenge yourselves in your daily lives too. When you're riding the bus and you see someone being harassed, and you screw up the courage to say that's wrong and to stand up for them. When you're at work and you learn that someone's being sexually harassed or that they're a victim of racism in the workplace, and you stand up and you say, that's wrong. I'm not going to be silent about it. Those challenges are just as big as these big things that we do together. Those challenges feel big to you. I know they do, and they take strength. And you have strength. You've got a cue card in your pocket, and your cue card is coming to church on Sunday and being together with all of these other people who believe in love and justice just as you do. That's your cue card. That reminds you why you are doing what you do. So what I'm asking you to do today is to take a small challenge, what feels maybe like a small challenge, which is to consider your financial pledge to the church. For me, it doesn't feel like a huge challenge. I decided this time last year how much I wanted to pledge, and it just comes out of my bank account every month. I don't even notice it. You know, when I balance my budget at the end of the month, I just check it off. It just came out. But this year, I sat down with my pledge card and my calculator, and I said, what would it look like if I increased my pledge 5%, 10%, 20%? And I found that I could make an increase without making a huge cut to my budget. I didn't have to make a huge sacrifice, but I was able to make what felt for me like a big increase. And this may be your year to do that. So before you drop your pledge card in the baskets out here, I want you to do the same thing. Really stop and think about what feels right for me, for my family. Can I make an increase? And what will happen is that Tom and I and the staff, we read that as a challenge to us. We're pledging more. We expect more from you. We expect more from the staff. And then we rise to the challenge. We stand up in the pulpit and we challenge you back. What can you do? Can you be more courageous? Can you be bolder? Can you be braver? Can you do more for justice in our community? It's a wonderful feedback loop that you only find in a church. This is your church. So I want you to rise to the challenge. Thank you.
Oh, come.
Well, the first announcement this morning is that our choir kicks butt. Okay? You're wonderful. No other announcements worth making, really, after that. But I do want to remind you to take a look at the announcements and the order of service. Tomorrow night's always great. It's Family Fun Night, designed for families with young children getting together about 6:15 for breaking bread together. Then there's a program for the adults, a program for the kids, and everybody's out by 7:30 to get the kids in bed for another rigorous day at school. A lot of fun. And also, please note that as we continue, what celebration is not limited today. We're going to celebrate Mardi Gras here next Saturday night, and tickets are available. Colleen, where are you going to be to sell tickets to the Mardi Gras? By the coffee. How smart thou art. That's really a great idea. This is really getting into the spirit of Mardi Gras with the right Southern cooking and dancing and a lot of fun. See Colleen for tickets and have a really good time next Saturday night. And then we have one last announcement. I'm going to ask Monica to introduce this. We're moving into the 21st century or beyond. We're making it easier for people to make contributions to the church. Monica, tell us how we can make it even easier.
Thank you. So, in the spirit of moving forward and rising to the challenge, if you have a smartphone, then you no longer have an excuse for not having a check or cash in your wallet when you come to church on Sunday. You can now give through an app called Givelify. You'll find detailed instructions on how to get the app and how to use the app in your order of service. But if you're like me, I never carry any cash anywhere, and then I'm always caught up when the basket passes to me. No more. You can now give here. You just look on the little map that shows up. You'll see our church. Just tap on it and follow the instructions. It's basically that easy. You can give to the offering plate on Sunday morning. You can donate toward your pledge. You can give toward our Sanctuary Family Fund. It allows you all of those options, and so you can do it every Sunday. You could try it today, right now. If you need help, now listen to the sermon though. Like, don't be playing with your phone while we're trying to talk. If you need help getting the app, just find me at the stewardship table after service. I will be happy to help you out. Thanks.
So this time, the old-fashioned collection will be gladly received, a chance to greet one another and bid each other a fine celebration Sunday.
Time it rains, pennies from heaven. Don't you know his cloud contains pennies from heaven? You'll find your fortune falling all over town. Be sure that your umbrellas turn upside down. Save it for a package of sunshine and flowers. If you want the things you love, you must have showers. So when you hear it thunder, don't run under a tree. There'll be pennies from heaven for you and me. Every time it rains, pledges from heaven. Don't you know each cloud contains pledges from heaven? You'll find a pledge cards laying all around. Be sure when you ride on it, you're not riding upside down. It's kind of hard to read it that way. Put them in a plate and put in one for your honey. Your honey needs to pledge too, you know. If you want the things you love, we need your money. So when it's time for the pledge drive, don't dive under a pew. There'll be need generous pledges from me.
May 12th, 2013, I decided it was time to visit the UU Church. How do I know the exact day? Because it was Mother's Day. My husband had brought our children to the Earth Day service a few weeks before and attended a little on his own. He had officially retired from the LDS Church a few years prior, but I was still attending, albeit struggling. After a sacrament meeting, as they are called, that morning, we headed straight here for the 11 o'clock service. The differences between the two meetings were stark, to say the least. With the voices of primary children still singing in my head, "Mother, I love you, Mother, I do," and my potted geranium nestled safely in the back seat, we soon arrived and I nervously settled into a pew. I was soon delighted and amazed to hear a service which included poetry readings, meditation, beautiful music, including the junior singers, and a sermon entitled "From the Feminine Mystique to Lean In." Using Betty Friedan's landmark piece from over 50 years ago as a foundation, Reverend Tom spoke about the challenges women face to continually balance work and family responsibilities and compared it to Sheryl Sandberg's book, Lean In. It was so thought-provoking and relevant in contrast to what I had experienced just 2 hours earlier at the Mormon service. I'm the daughter of an English professor raised in a fairly liberal Mormon family where we often engaged in conversation about current issues, politics, and discrimination, even if there were some limits to what we could question. Yet I had found it difficult as a mother of older children to sustain this framework and be a fully committed Mormon. Here I have discovered a personal spirituality where I can talk openly about art, politics, and even feminism, where I can negotiate my role as a mother and a professional without judgment, shame, or guilt. Over the next few years, my youngest 2 children would participate in meaningful class discussions, coming-of-age activities, Why Are You services, the Owl Human Sexuality and Relationships course, fundraisers, solstice dinners, and summer mission trips. Then I joined the choir. I've had the privilege of working with such fine singers and conductors in the chancel choir. David Owens, Holly Stewart, and David Zabriskie are truly masters of their craft. The experience of singing in this very sanctuary to celebrate the harvest season, Christmas, Martin Luther King, celebration Sundays like this one, Easter, and 3 requiems have far surpassed my expectations. I look forward to choir practice every week. I resolved that Mother's Day to make a more formal transition into the Unitarian Church because what I heard and felt resonated with me deeply and more accurately reflected my personal values. I even got a new job since I was employed by the LDS Church. First Church addresses my concerns about our fragile political situation, environmental awareness, and the pervading inequality of our disenfranchised populations, including the LGBTQ+ community, minorities, immigrants, and the poor. I can't change the circumstances of how I discovered the Unitarian Church nearly 6 years ago. I wish often that I had known about it sooner. Maybe I wasn't ready. I spent half my lifetime paying my dues in one form or another as a member of the other church. Today I stand before you to pledge my time and my funds in support of this great institution of liberal thought for the next chapter of my life. Thank you.
Well, Allison, Aidan, thank you so very much. You've given us just a wonderful sense of what the fabric of this church community is all about. Who comprises, who are all the threads when you tie it together, make up this wonderful, wonderful community. And thank you so very, very much, both of you. Rising to the challenge of a Unitarian church with about 400 members and friends, who collectively hold 500 different opinions on just about everything, and who represent, at least 30 different theologies connected to Unitarianism by a precarious hyphen, like pagan Unitarian, Buddhist Unitarian, vegan Unitarian, atheist Unitarian, and my favorite, honest to God, my favorite, I had a couple of people tell me they were Mormon Unitarian. What I Really? I feel your pain. God. Being a minister to such a community with varied opinions and viewpoints, all under the same roof, kind of keeps you on your toes and keeps you mentally alert, and sometimes introduces tap dancing as a good option for your ministry. But as crazy as Unitarian ministry may seem, and the challenges that arise in a theologically diverse congregation, there remains one very specific challenge that speaks directly to my heart and quite frankly provides an anchor for me in this troubled world. The challenge this church tries to rise up and meet speaks to the essence, I believe, of why we are all here. Our challenge, plain and simple, is learning what it means to be religious in these contemporary times. And what does it mean being religious while shedding the remnants of superstition? What does it mean being religious freed from the absolutes of doctrine? What does it mean to be religious no longer fearful of threats imposed by authoritarian leaders? What does it mean to be religious unencumbered by guilt manufactured through preposterous moral judgments about other people, their lifestyles, even facets of science, the whole world? The challenge before us is becoming more of who we really are. Or actually, and I hope you're going to resonate just with this image, what our challenge is is living closer to the soul. You know what I mean? To live more closely to our soul. Who are we? Deep in the very marrow of our being. The ethic that swirls so prevalently in society today urges us to maximize our self-interests. This makes it difficult for people to live their life values. That is, to relate to people in ways that are compassionate. When people are separated from the values that they hold closely, they lose a sense of meaning and integrity and commitment. I mean, just think about it personally. You know, what happens when you yourselves are separated from your values? I mean, there's an opportunity for cynicism to kind of assert itself very easily. And so our challenge as a progressive church entails connecting people, actually connecting people with their values. And how do we do this? Through opportunities that tap into our concern and love. It is love that moves us to alleviate the massive suffering of humanity. And we have evolved in our understanding of religious, where religion now means, we have come to understand it, that religion needs political commitment. Love and justice are of the same cloth. Our challenge lies not in providing charity to those in need, but to change the systemic structures of oppressive power that unconscionably aim to perpetuate the status quo. Our challenge includes reminding ourselves when we sometimes despair in our efforts to transform the world, to remind us that racial justice, gender justice, and the humane treatment of immigrants, these are not connected to any extreme ideology, but morally, they are morally and constitutionally at the political center. So we are not outrageously radical or even socialist or leftist or whatever dirty name is hurled our way. Human rights, civil rights, love of neighbor tilt neither left nor right. We are fighting for the moral center. We want to preserve the moral center. This is our gravity. This is our force. This is what keeps us going. Now we try to meet this challenge of connecting people with their values by offering, I think, a little bit of clarity. Our values, embedded in the 7 UU principles that make explicit our religious commitment to improve human relations, also gives us a telling reminder in its 7th principle that we are inextricably tied to the interconnected web of all existence. Now, this principle, so intrinsic to our fundamental beliefs, stands in stark contrast to the usual outlook called the pyramid of existence. Now, this view maintains a picture of the cosmos kind of as a pyramid, with the human being on top of the pyramid and all the other creatures below, filtering out below. And below them, the soil and dirt and deserts and mountains and streams, which exist, of course, for our usage entirely to dig out and turn into whatever we as people want. But feeling kin with the natural world, feeling kin to all who suffer, brings us to a commitment that speaks of a different ethic of what it means to live a fulfilling life. That's why we come to church, in order to understand. It's almost a cliche to live a fulfilling life, but what does that really mean? Isn't that what motivates us to be part of this church community, to discover meaning in our lives? It brings us then to a level of respect for the preciousness of all life, and thereby compels us to honor the dignity inherent in all. There are no pyramids of existence, but a unified cosmos of which we are simply a humble part. And this establishes a very different religious premise from which we set out to live our lives with meaning. If it weren't for this church community, we would probably not experience the spiritual power gained from working with the homeless and immigrants. We would not have avenues by which we can protect this fragile earth. We would not move in circles that include the aged, children, young adults, all trying to live closer to the soul. All of us, young, old, in between. It's what we're trying to do, is live closer to the soul. All learning, all of us trying so hard to learn what it means to be religious in today's world of tumult and so much neglect. Now, living life with meaning can touch the essence, can touch the fibers of who we really are. And it remains one of the greatest challenges in life. So the challenge for this church, then, is to lift us from our entrenched routines to see clearly what it means to live a life more aligned with who we really are, and to embrace that opportunity with all our hearts. Our challenge lies in helping this community discover passion, feel passion, live with passion, passion for justice, passion for music, passion for teaching, passion for learning, passion for people, connecting with people who are all on this journey of living their lives authentically. And so once a year, that's really all, once a year, on Celebration Sunday, we ask you, is this church, do you feel this church is rising to meet the challenge? Well, if we are, then please support the means by which we can sustain this remarkable community. We all have a significant role to play in helping the church connect its members, friends, sympathizers, all who drop in on occasion for a little sustenance. Connect us all with our values and exercise those values for real. What's it like being religious in this fractious world today? What's it like being religious as fully rational people? What's it like being religious where we care about the world and we care so deeply about each other? We strive to be a community that makes caring really kind of the focal point, marked by memorials, child dedications, weddings, holiday celebrations, and a chance to live closer to the soul. We cannot continue to meet the challenge without your financial support. And when these words are spoken, I admit it does sound a little crass, but it needs to be communicated and understood. Now you may think, how can you speak of budgets in the same breath as living closer to the soul? Well, it's hard. But when you think about it in a grander scheme, Poetry, beauty, justice, they all need their supporters, their patrons, as does a church community dedicated to helping all of us learn the meaning of being religious in a contemporary society. So let this church, you can allow this church to serve you at its utmost capacity. Think about all that we really offer in helping us live aligned with our values. Music, justice, sanctuary. Yeah, and then there the light bills have to be paid. These are challenges all that can only be met through your generosity. So please, rise up and meet the challenge. So be it. And may we all rise up now, turning our hymn books, please, to number 118 for a rousing rendition of This Little Light of Mine. Let us keep the light shining brightly in our work to transform the world through love and justice. Now, let us keep the light shining brightly as we act boldly in our living and follow the dictates of an open heart and an honest mind. Let us keep the light shining brightly as we let courage be our resolve, integrity our strength, and kindness our guide. May this church inspire that light that you carry in your souls and hearts and minds. And may this church continue to flourish through the generosity of everyone who finds a religious home right here in this community. Amen. Once again, thank you, choir. Thank you so very much. You make Celebration Sunday happen. You really do. Thanks so much. You know, sometimes on Sunday morning, people like to skip the coffee hour and just kind of get out real fast through the back door, but that is not allowed today. CJ has, in fact, locked the doors in the back. And you won't be disappointed because we have a very, very special coffee hour for you today. I wasn't kidding. We really do have mimosas, and Steve Hardy, who's our pastry chef who takes care of all of Deer Valley, has come down into the valley here to provide wonderful, wonderful treats for us all. And yeah, a good time to be had by all. And there will also be pledge cards available right here at the table. And I don't know, in fact, we are such a community of faith. You can actually grab some coffee hour goodies before writing your pledge card. I don't know. We'll see if that system works. But anyway, thanks for braving the snow, coming out and making Celebration Sunday happen. We're so grateful to you all, and let's have a really wonderful coffee hour.